Hey guys, and welcome back to another lesson. Today I'm going to walk you through the piece I played at the beginning, which is kind of this sort of sad epic piano piece, and I'm going to teach you exactly what I did and sort of all sorts of little tips and tricks on what to do with your left hand and right hand that will hopefully improve your own playing. I want to start by walking you through the chords I used in this piece. I wrote them out explicitly at the beginning, and now I'd like to show you exactly what I played, what notes I played. So this will be the first step in this lesson. So I start out with an A minor chord, which is this A with a small m written next to it. And A minor is made of three notes, which are A, C, and E. The next chord I play is an E minor. E minor is made of E, G, and B. Now I'm not going to go over chords I've already shown you, so the next chord is an A minor, but I'm not going to show it again. I'm going to skip to the next chord, which I haven't covered, which is an F major. So the F major is made out of an F, A, and C. The next chord is a C major, which is made out of a C, E, and G. And then you have a D minor, D, F, and A. So this covers the first line of chords. Now we move on to the second line, and actually the second line only has one new chord that doesn't appear in the previous line, which is the G major chord, which is signified just by the letter G. So this is made out of the three notes, which are G, B, and D. I should say that what I'm showing you here is what's called the root form of these chords. So these chords can be played in different ways, and this is just one of them. So there's more than one way to play a G major. And I'm going to comment on it a little bit as we walk through this lesson, but I don't want to go deeply into theory and, trying to keep things as practical as possible. And the next line of chords, the third line, we have a couple of new chords, which are the following. We have D major, which is made of the notes D, F sharp, and A. And we also have B minor, which is made of the notes B, D, and F sharp. Now I don't play them exactly this way when I play this line. I do what's called an arpeggiation, which we'll get to in a moment. In the fourth line of chords, we've actually covered already all of the chords, so I'm not going to repeat it again. Now, when I play this piece, this melody, and I accompany myself with the left hand, I don't just play the chords themselves, although I could do that. Instead, I break them down in different ways. And the first first pattern that I start out with goes as follows. And I'm going to demonstrate this on the A minor chord. What I do is I hit the bass, the A, and then I play the upper two notes. And there's a timing to it. So this piece is written in a 3/4 time signature. It means that you count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 as you play your music. And you hit the bass on the 1 and the two upper notes on the 2, and you hold them for the 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so on. You can keep doing this for as long as you want to play the A minor chord. Another example, for the E minor, you will play 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Now this adds some motion and life to your playing, which is always a good thing. You don't want to sort of start out too dramatically, so it has this kind of slow, melancholic feel to it. kind of reminiscent of Eric Satie, and if you haven't heard his pieces, you should go and Google him or look for him on YouTube or whatever. He was an early 20th century piano composer who wrote these small melancholic pieces which are very famous, and I'd wager that you probably heard them at some point. Maybe you haven't heard of his name, but you probably heard the pieces. Now, I use this sort of motion or pattern for the first line of chords. For the second line of chords, I actually arpeggiate the chords. So this means that I don't play the notes simultaneously at all, but I play them one after the other in different combinations. And the way I do this is I play for A minor. So I play the first, second, third, second, third, second notes, and then I repeat. So this is the arpeggiation of A minor. For example, if I wanted to arpeggiate E minor, I would do, for F major, I would play, and I can keep arpeggiating it for as long as I want to keep playing that chord. Now, this arpeggiation adds some motion, and it sort of helps build up the tension or intensity of your playing or of the song. And you also always have to keep these things in mind. You want to start quiet and slow and build up your intensity as you're playing. When I hit the third line of chords, the E minor, I actually play another arpeggiation which is more dramatic and more complex. And I'll show you what I played and then we'll break it down. I only play it once. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking the E minor chord, and instead of playing it up here, I'm playing it down here, which is fine, just an octave below. Still the same notes, E, G, and B. And I take the middle note, G, and I move it up an octave. And I also take the lowest most note, the E, and I double it up here. So this is actually still an E minor chord, even though I moved and doubled the notes. This is still an E minor chord. And now what I do is I hit the lowest, the next chord, the next note, which is a B, E, B, G, B. And remember, you're always counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The next arpeggiation is of C major, so just to show you that you can repeat this, here's the C, take this E, move it up an octave, take this E and move it up an octave, take the C here, double it, here are the notes that you're going to arpeggiate, and what you're playing is C, G, C, G, E, G. Then the next is D major, B minor, C major, D major, and E minor. And this again helps build up the intensity of your playing. So you have, I think, a total of 5 different chords on the, or actually 4 different chords on the third line, and I highly recommend that you sit through each of them and you build up this arpeggiation pattern and you make sure that you can play it. I keep the same arpeggiation pattern for the fourth line of chords, so I'm not going to break it down again for you, but I do highly recommend that you go through the different chords on the fourth line and you convince yourself that you can actually build this arpeggiation based on the chords that I've shown you. Okay, so we've spoken about the left hand. What about the right hand? So the right hand, well, naturally plays the melody. And the first thing that you might have noticed, and if not, you should go back and listen again, is that many or most of the melody notes fall on chord notes. So for example, when I'm playing the beginning, you'll notice that, for example, the first note I play, when I play the A minor, is a C. And C is one of the notes in the A minor chord. The next note I play is B. And B is one of the notes in the E minor chord. Then I play an A, which is again one of the notes in the A minor chord. And I go back to a B. Then I have an A, which is one of the notes in the F major chord. So it usually, or when you play one of the notes that is part of the chord that you're playing in the left hand, you're pretty much guaranteed that your melody will sound consonant, so it will sound good. Now, of course, not all melodies that are consonant are good or interesting. So, I mean, you can't just randomly play chord notes, although you will be guaranteed pretty, I'd say, reasonable results. You know, I'm just going to randomly select chord tones. So, you know, I haven't given it much thought, and it sounds a little bit childish, but it doesn't sound bad. It all sounds like it fits. Of course, writing a particular melody is always an artistic endeavor, and there's no real formula for that. But the first thing you should think about is, you know, if you want something that sounds good, try playing the chord tones and moving between the chord notes. Now, the next thing I want to point out is this idea which is called chord melody. And I use this when I enter the third line of chords where the intensity really builds up. And instead of playing single notes in my right hand, I play like these large blocks of notes. So on. And I want to show you that this is actually not a complex idea. And I'll show you exactly what I'm doing. So imagine that you have a melody that is made out of single notes. And you want to make it sound more powerful and fuller. So the idea is the following. If you are in a chord note, so for example, you're starting with an E minor here, and you're in a G, which is a note in the E minor set of notes. It's an E, remember E minor is E, G, and B. So this G is part of the E minor chord. You can add below it, in succession, the notes that belong to the E minor chord. So for example, I can, if I want to thicken it up just a little bit, I can add this, if I go down, I have an F here, which is not part of the E minor chord, but here I have an E, which is part of the E minor chord, so I can add this. And it makes it sound a little bit fuller. But I can go one step further. I can keep going down, and I say, okay, this D is not part of the E minor chord, C is not part of the E minor chord, but this note B is part of the E minor chord, so I can add it as well. When I play this, you know, instead of just playing this, I can play this larger set of notes. And I can go even further. I can say, okay, I'm going to keep going down. So next note is an A, which is not part of the E minor. Next note is a G, which is part of E minor, so I can add that as well. Now I've run out of fingers, so I can't really add another note, but if I had a huge, some sort of alien mutated hand, I could also add this E down here to get an even fuller sound. And this applies to pretty much any note you play. So the next note is this G for the C major chord. And to make it sound fuller, I can starting from G, I can go down and I can say, okay, what's the next note I have? It's an E, which is part of the C major chord. The next note that is part of the C major chord is the C here. And the next note is, you have to go down and it's a G. And now, instead of just playing this note on itself, I have this large block of notes that really adds oomph to my sort of playing. So instead of playing, I play the next topic I'd like to discuss is basically how to string different chords together. Now, or maybe put differently, how did I choose the chords that I used in this melody? So this melody is written in the key of A minor, or A natural minor to be precise, and this scale really is made of the notes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, and then you can keep on going. Go up and down. Now, once you get this sort of scale, this succession of notes, what you can do is you can start with a minor chord built on the lowest note, and then you can start moving it up your scale. So, I mean, just like you did probably when you were a kid. So, you start with an A minor, and then you get these different shapes. And these are all different chords, and I will walk through them quickly. The first chord is an A minor. The second chord, this funny sounding chord, is a B diminished chord. This is a C major, and you can go back and compare it to the C majors you played previously and see that it's exactly the same set of notes. It's a C, E, and G. Then you have a D minor, an E minor, an F major, a G major, and an A minor. And really, if you go through the first two lines of chords and the last line of chord, the fourth line, you'll see that all of the chords I've used were taken from this collection of chords. In fact, I've used all of them except for B diminished. You could use this in some scenarios, but I chose not to. Now, there are theory rules as to which chords leads strongly to other chords. For example, an E minor leads strongly to an A minor. But really, if you just experiment with these chords, you'll find out that there are many, many different combinations, and it's really not worth the effort in this video to go into try to go into the theory dissection of each and every chord change in this piece. I think that will kind of cause you to lose sight of the forest from the trees, or whatever it's however it's put in English. And really my best piece of advice to you is just experiment and see which chord progressions sound good to your ears. You don't have a lot of chords to choose from here. Even if you take out the B flat, the B diminished chord, you're left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different chords, and then you can just try going between them. So I'm going to now randomly play a succession of chords in the left hand. I didn't plan ahead for this. And I'm going to play a chord tone in my right hand just to show you how well these chords and the right hand melody all kind of mesh together. I'm going to start with A minor because, you know, this is an A minor in the key of A minor. So it actually sounded not too bad. So it's a good, really good starting point to just playing around and coming up with your own melodies and ideas. I'd like to conclude this video by showing you a very cool trick, which is modulating between two different keys. And this can add a huge amount of sort of tension building to your melody playing. So it can really take your playing in terms of building up the intensity of your piece to a whole new level. And this is really what I've done in the third line of chords in this piece. So the idea is as follows. Just as I've built chords on the A natural minor scale, I can also build chords on other natural minor scales. And one such scale is the E natural minor scale. And this is made of the notes E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, and E. Now, if you want to learn more about scales, you can check out my Piano Quickie series here on YouTube that discusses really how to build them very efficiently and quickly. But for now, it's enough to know that the E natural minor scale is made of these notes. And just as we've built our chords on the A natural minor, we can do the same in E natural minor. So starting from E minor, which we've already seen, we can go up to the next set of 3 notes, and we get an F sharp diminished chord. The next is G major, which you already met, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, and E minor. Now, all of the chords in the third line are taken from this set of notes, from this, I should say, set of chords. So the first chord is an E minor, then a C major, D major, and then when I move to the fourth line of chords, I return to the A natural minor scale. So all of the chords in the fourth line are taken from the chords we've built on the A natural minor scale. So I transitioned in the third line to E minor, E natural minor, and I moved back to A natural minor in the fourth line. And modulating between keys, that is sort of really thinking to yourself, all right, I'm in a whole new land now which has its own chords, and I'm going to play around with them, and then I'm going to go back to the original scale and keep on playing with the original set of chords. This kind of idea can lend a huge kind of progression, feeling of progression and variety to your chord progressions and melodies and so on. And I think it also really helps build up the momentum for this particular piece. So that's it for today. We've had a somewhat longer lesson than usual, but I hope you've made it until the end. And I hope that you've learned something interesting, and I hope to see you next time.